Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the Belgian presidency for the invitation. This is a very interesting, very important debate, and I hope it contributes also to the report of Mr. Enrico Letta. I take a little bit of a more contrarian view, if only to also elementate the debate and the discussion. First of all, I find the question you asked us about what can we do to ensure the acceptability of the single market actually already wrong in itself. The single market, others have said, is to help, but the single market is not defined. Also in the discussion we've had, the single market is put over there somewhere as something that contributes, but what is the end goal of the single market? When is the single market finished? If we listen to the professor's introduction in the morning, Mr. Coleman, you could go with a single market which ends up like a United States type solution. Every service, including services of general interest, are included, are open, are liberalized, are open to competition, etc. That's certainly not our view. We do think public ownership matters. I'll come back to that in a moment. One of the things we have seen over the years is that when there is a problem in the European Union, the solution is more single market. It's almost a Pavlov reaction we see. Something we do not agree, because that view, and you have said it as well, Valeria, it often translates in less regulation, more competition, more liberalization of services. A logic of the state can never be too little and the market never be too big. That's a little bit behind that logic, and that leads in another way to a very strong position of those business interests who always push for more opening. You refer to the European Roundtable of Industrialists since 1991, 1992. They keep on hammering, we need more markets, more deregulation, less obstacles to trade or commerce or whatever. And at this moment, they've created a new coalition, Unlocked Europe. And the main point, more competition, more market, etc. And I think one has to be also, others have said it in other words, the citizens don't see the internal market as something that directly benefits them. Via it does, of course. But we also identify, and many citizens, I think, identify the single market as increasingly a corporate, a private sector employers project. I would even say leading to exploitation. I said I would try to make it sharp. Because the single market doesn't give an answer to tax avoidance. Something you raised, Pierre, in your intervention. It doesn't give an answer to climate change. It doesn't give an answer to social housing problems. It actually made it worse, because the social housing corporation have to work in a frame of competition. It makes it difficult for the mutualities to function, because they have to work in a frame of competition policy. So it doesn't give answers to those problems, to precarity of workers, to low wages. It doesn't do anything of that. So a bit of a critical view of the internal market. The second, and I think Oliver referred to that in other words, with the view of the Economic and Social Committee, no surprise, of course, because trade unions and others are part of that, is that we rather want to see a focus on social Europe. The social progress protocol you mentioned. And I think we can even go further in our contribution to the report of Mr. Letta. We've said, well, what can the proposals you bring forward for the single market do to actually make steps towards this perspective of beyond growth, of an economy of well-being? What can the internal market do there? In other words, bring us also on a perspective to transformation, to upwards social convergence. On the trade union side, we have made proposals on how we can strengthen collective bargaining, social dialogue. the issues that need to be addressed with regard to regional cohesion. So I don't go too much in detail here. But for public services, also a perspective of a rights-based approach, taking the pillar of social rights, the protocol in the treaty, and give a perspective in the internal market development there, realizing the pillar of social rights. And I agree very much with Valeria. It's not only the Principle 20 we have to talk about, it's also what do we need to realize the right to education, the right to healthcare, the right to long-term care. As a European federation, might be sounding strange to you, we organize in our sectors both workers in the public, the non-profit, but also in the private sector. I mean, I've worked with multinational companies who deliver water or energy services, healthcare, and also social care services. Many of you know the case of Orpea, French multinational company in the care sector, with a, how should I say that, an exaggerated focus on profit maximization. That's a very kind way of expressing the corruption which was going on in that company, the exploitation of the elderly, the workers in that company. But what many people don't understand with regard to public services, and I don't know if you agree, but many people don't understand with public services delivered through the private sector, is that the private sector can walk away. They have the right of exit. Orpea can walk away if they go bankrupt. And who steps in? That is the state or the local authority or the regional authority, and that exactly happened in the case of Orpea. Was the public finance institutions and the pension funds which stepped in to help save the company. And so, my second point, a focus on social Europe, on realizing the pillar of social rights. The third pillar is continuing a bit on what Valeria said. We find that the single market doesn't acknowledge the role of public sector, of public services, and how they help build sustainable growth and a fair and inclusive society. It actually doesn't have a positive, how should I say that, positive theory of public services, service of general interest. And I agree with the idea, we have advocated for that in the past as well, this idea of a commissioner which looks at public services, service of general interest. And one of the things we have said to Commissioner Breton when he was developing the industrial policy is you cannot have an industrial policy in Europe if you do not address how you strengthen public administrations, because a lot of money is going into the industrial and also in the Green Deal, a lot of money is going there. But if you don't have a strong tax inspectorate, if you don't have strong environmental protection agencies, if you don't have a strong labor inspectorate, a lot of that money is going to be lost. You need a good functioning judiciary. I hope that appeals to the President of the European Court of Justice. I mean, you need all of these instances, but never is there an accompanying policy in those type of policies which are developed, which addresses that. And there are a number of the European Court of Auditors, but also National Court of Auditors, who have pointed out that a lot of money is wasted because there is not sufficiently qualified staff in the public administrations to address this. The second point of what is not acknowledged is that you have public services which makes it possible for industry, broadly speaking, to function. I mean, if there's no childcare, mothers, usually mothers, but also fathers increasingly, they cannot do their job. If you don't have elderly care services, if the state, the local authority doesn't provide for that, you have to take care of your parents, you're sick, etc. So you need functioning public services, health, social care, education, to make also an industrial policy possible. A point Valeria raised, as I said, I think public ownership matters. I also think public enterprise matters in terms of a productive factor. I find it absolutely bizarre that we're talking about the pharma industry, and I know the Parliament has addressed this, but I find it absolutely bizarre that in that discussion the European Union, the European Commission, doesn't talk about a European public enterprise for the pharma sector. Why not? To help produce rare medicines, to actually have the funds to do that. I think one of the mistakes in the European Union, I mean, we're now talking 20, 25 years ago, was that the European Union didn't create its own solar power panel industry. And that has led to the disappearance of that industry from Europe. But imagine what could have been achieved in terms of already addressing that. So public enterprise is very much important and something we miss in the ideas around European industrial policy. The last point, and not maybe surprising, is the issue of social conditionalities in procurement, but also in all the other funds of the European Commission, is that those funds go together with a number of requirements. I mean, if you get money from the European Commission, that's our money, if you want, and the people in the on the screen, that's our taxpayers' money. Why should we not ask that that goes to companies which have a good collective agreement? Yeah, which are in an honest bargaining process with the trade unions, goes to companies which pay their taxes. I find it absolutely ridiculous that local authorities, increasingly local authorities, other public authorities, put their data in Amazon Web Services, a private company, that we haven't created a European public data cloud, for example, and we give our money to, our data to a company we know is a tax avoider, we know doesn't create good collective agreements with the trade unions, etc. I find that bizarre that we do that and accept that. And the last, of course, in terms of conditionalities, a point raised by Pierre, is that it also ensures a contribution to reducing climate change and protecting the environment. Well, with those 3 points, if they are not addressed, I think support for the single market, for that project, which is a European project, will dwindle, will be more complicated, and all these things we don't do will be abused by others. And I haven't touched upon the economic governance, which makes things even more complicated. That's another discussion.